My name is Margaret Chen, and I'm 58 years old now. The story I'm about to share happened 15 years ago, but it changed everything about how I understood family, love, and what we truly inherit from those who came before us. I was 43 then, living a quiet life in the same small Oregon town where I'd grown up. My grandmother Helen was 92 and had been declining for several months. She was a remarkable woman who had immigrated from Taiwan in her 20s, built a successful textile business, and raised 3 children mostly on her own, after my grandfather passed young. I had always been close to Grandma Helen. Every Sunday afternoon I would visit her at the assisted living facility, bringing her favorite chrysanthemum tea and homemade almond cookies. We would sit by the window overlooking the garden, and she would tell me stories about the old country, about building her business from nothing, about the values that mattered most to her. My father, Robert, was her eldest son. He was 65 then, a stern accountant who had always been obsessed with money and status. We had never been particularly close. He was the type of man who measured success only in dollars and saw family relationships as transactions to be managed. One afternoon in late September, I received a phone call from my father. His voice was cold and businesslike as always. "Margaret, we need to talk about your grandmother's will." I felt a chill go through me. Grandma Helen had been getting weaker, but I hadn't wanted to think about losing her. "Is she okay? Has something happened?" "She's fine for now," he said dismissively. "But we need to discuss the estate planning. Can you come to my office tomorrow at 2? The next day I drove to his accounting firm downtown. The receptionist led me to his corner office with its view of Main Street. My father sat behind his large mahogany desk, looking at me with an expression I couldn't quite read. "Sit down, Margaret." I sat in the leather chair across from him, my hands folded in my lap. Something felt wrong, but I couldn't identify what. "I'm going to tell you something that your mother and I decided you should never know," he began. "But circumstances have forced my hand." My heart started beating faster. "You are not my biological daughter." The words hit me like a physical blow. I stared at him, unable to process what I'd just heard. "What are you talking about?" His face remained impassive. "Your mother had an affair 43 years ago. You are the product of that affair. I agreed to raise you as my own, but you are not my blood." I felt like the floor had disappeared beneath me. "That's not possible. Mom would never." "Your mother is dead, Margaret. She can't confirm or deny it, but I'm telling you the truth now because it matters for the will." My mother had passed away from cancer 8 years earlier. The grief of losing her came rushing back. "Why are you telling me this now?" He leaned back in his chair. "Because my mother's will currently leaves equal shares to all her grandchildren. That includes you, but you're not actually her blood relative. You have no legal or moral claim to the family fortune. The cruelty of it took my breath away. You're trying to cut me out of Grandma's will. I'm simply ensuring that family assets go to family members. My mother built that business for her descendants. You're not her descendant." Tears started rolling down my cheeks. "Does Grandma know about this?" "Not yet, but I'll be speaking with her tomorrow to update the will accordingly." I stood up, my legs shaking. "I don't care about the money. But how dare you tell me something like this in such a cruel way? Even if it's true, I'm still the person you raised. I'm still the granddaughter who has visited her every single week for years." "Sentiment doesn't change biology," he said flatly. I left his office in a daze. I sat in my car in the parking lot for nearly an hour, crying until I had no tears left. That evening I called my Aunt Patricia, my mother's younger sister. Through my tears I told her what my father had said. There was a long silence on the other end of the line. "Oh, honey," she finally said, her voice filled with sadness. "Your father is lying to you." "What? Your mother never had an affair. She was devoted to your father even though he never appreciated her. This is just Robert being Robert, obsessed with money and willing to hurt anyone to get what he wants. But why would he lie about something so terrible?" "Because your grandmother's estate is worth nearly $3 million. If he can convince you that you're not really family, maybe you'll step aside voluntarily. And if you fight it, he'll drag you through emotional hell either way. I felt rage building inside me, hot and fierce. What should I do? Go see your grandmother tomorrow before he does. Tell her what happened. Helen is sharp as a tack even at 92. She'll know what to do. The next morning I arrived at Grandma Helen's room at 9 o'clock. She was sitting in her chair by the window, dressed in a beautiful jade green cardigan, her white hair pulled back in her usual neat bun. Margaret, dear, what a lovely surprise. I wasn't expecting you until Sunday. I sat down across from her and took her small weathered hands in mine. Grandma, I need to tell you something that Dad said to me yesterday. Her eyes, still bright and intelligent, focused on my face. You've been crying. What did my son do now? I told her everything, the words spilling out, about how Dad had called me to his office, how he'd told me I wasn't his biolog. Equal daughter, how he wanted to cut me out of the will. Grandma Helen's face grew stern, angrier than I'd ever seen her. That foolish, greedy man, she said quietly, always so concerned with money that he forgot what actually matters. Is it true, Grandma? Was Mom unfaithful? She squeezed my hands firmly. Your mother was one of the most loyal, devoted wives I've ever known. She loved your father despite his coldness. There was never any affair. Your father is lying because he wants more money for himself and his sons. The relief that washed over me was overwhelming. Thank you, I whispered. Now listen to me carefully, Margaret. I'm going to tell you something that I want you to remember. She paused, gathering her thoughts in that deliberate way she had. Family is not just about blood. It's about who shows up. It's about who cares. For 15 years, you have come to see me every single week. You bring me tea and cookies. You listen to my old stories. You hold my hand when I'm tired. Tears were streaming down my face again. Your father visits me maybe once a month, and when he does, he spends the whole time talking about investments and estate planning. Your brothers come twice a year at most. But you, my dear Margaret, you have been here through everything. I love you, Grandma. That's why I come, and that love, that devotion, that kindness, those are the things that make you my granddaughter. Not DNA, not biology. Character, values, love. She reached for the phone on her side table. Hand me that phone, dear. I need to call my lawyer right now. Within an hour, Arthur Morrison, Grandma Helen's attorney for 30 years, arrived at her room. He was a distinguished man in his 70s with kind eyes and a gentle manner. Grandma Helen explained the situation to him calmly and clearly. Arthur, I want to make some significant changes to my will immediately. Of course, Helen. What would you like to do? First, I want to reduce my son Robert's inheritance to $100,000. He'll get nothing more. Mr. Morrison raised his eyebrows but simply nodded and made notes. Second, I want to establish a trust fund of $500,000 for each of my other grandchildren, Robert's sons, James and David, and the remainder of the estate, Mr. Morrison asked. Grandma Helen looked at me with such love and tenderness. The remainder, approximately $1.8 million, goes entirely to Margaret. She has earned it through years of love, care, and devotion. She is the granddaughter of my heart. I started to protest. Grandma, you don't have to do this. I didn't come here for money. I know you didn't, dear. That's exactly why you deserve it. You loved me without expectation of reward. But I'm old and practical. I want to make sure you're taken care of. I want you to have security and freedom. Mr. Morrison prepared the documents that very afternoon. Grandma Helen signed them with a steady hand, with 2 nurses serving as witnesses. There, she said with satisfaction. Now my estate will go to the person who truly understood what family means. 2 days later, my father showed up at Grandma Helen's room. I happened to be there, reading to her from a collection of Chinese poetry she loved. When he walked in and saw me, his face darkened. What are you doing here? Visiting my grandmother, I said calmly. As I do every week. He turned to Grandma Helen. Mother, we need to discuss your will. I've discovered some information about Margaret that you need to know. Sit down, Robert, Grandma Helen said sharply. Her voice had steel in it. He sat, looking confused by her tone. I already know what you told Margaret. That you claimed she wasn't your biological daughter. That her mother had an affair. That she had no right to be in my will. His face paled slightly. Mother, I was only trying to protect the family assets. You were lying and being cruel to manipulate your own daughter out of her inheritance. Don't insult me by denying it. Margaret isn't my blood daughter. Stop, Grandma Helen commanded. I knew your wife. She was devoted to you far beyond what you deserved. There was never any affair. You made up a vicious lie because of your greed. My father opened his mouth to argue, but she cut him off. I have changed my will. You will receive $100,000. Your sons will receive their shares in trust. Everything else goes to Margaret. The color drained from his face completely. You can't be serious. I'm entirely serious. Margaret has shown me more love and care than you have in decades. She deserves to inherit from me because she understood what family actually means. This is ridiculous! I'm your son! Grandma Helen's voice softened slightly but remained firm. Yes, you are my son, and I will always love you because of that. But love doesn't mean rewarding cruelty. I hope you will learn from this, though I suspect you won't. My father stood up abruptly. You'll regret this, Mother. I'll contest the will. Arthur Morrison prepared it personally and it's ironclad. But you're welcome to waste your money on lawyers if you'd like. He stormed out without another word. I wouldn't see or hear from him for nearly 3 years after that. Grandma Helen lived for 6 more months after that confrontation. I visited her every week as always, sometimes more often as she grew weaker. We talked about her life, about values, about what we leave behind when we're gone. The business I built, the money I made, those things matter. Less than I once thought, she told me one afternoon in early March. What matters is the love you give, the kindness you show, the way you make people feel valued and seen. You taught me that, Grandma. She smiled. Then I leave this world satisfied. I helped raise a woman of character and compassion. She passed away peacefully in her sleep on March 23rd, with me holding her hand. The funeral was difficult. My father attended but barely spoke to me. My brothers James and David were cordial, but distant, caught between loyalty to their father and their own confusion about the situation. When the will was read, my father's face turned red with rage, but he said nothing. True to Grandma Helen's prediction, the will was legally perfect. He had no grounds to contest it. The inheritance changed my life in practical ways. I was able to retire from my job as a librarian. I paid off my modest house. I set up a scholarship fund at the local community college in Grandma Helen's name for immigrant students studying business. But the real gift wasn't the money. It was the validation of something I'd always believed, that family is what we make it through our choices and our actions, not just what we're born into. 3 years after Grandma Helen passed, my father reached out to me. He was 68 then and had recently had a heart attack. The experience had apparently prompted some reflection. We met at a coffee shop downtown. He looked older, more tired, some of the hardness gone from his face. Margaret, I owe you an apology, he began. I waited, letting him continue. What I said to you about not being my daughter, about your mother having an affair, it was a lie. A terrible, cruel lie, motivated by greed. I know it was a lie, Dad. Aunt Patricia and Grandma both confirmed it. He nodded, looking down at his coffee. I've spent these years thinking about what I did, about what I lost. What did you lose? A relationship with my daughter. Your weekly visits that I took for granted. The chance to know you as an adult. My mother's respect in her final years. There was real regret in his voice now, real pain. I was raised to believe that money was the measure of success, he continued. My whole life I've chased financial security and status. But after the heart attack, lying in that hospital bed, I realized I had no one who really cared about me, no one who would visit me every week like you visited my mother. I felt a mix of emotions, Anger at what he'd done, but also sadness for the lonely man he'd become. "Do you promise to keep your word about being truthful from now on?" I asked him, echoing what Grandma Helen had asked all those years ago. He looked up at me, and for the first time I saw tears in his eyes. "I promise. I can't undo what I did, but I'd like the chance to be a real father to you if you'll allow it." I thought about what Grandma Helen would want me to do. She had been stern with him, but she'd never stopped loving him. "We can start small," I said. "Coffee once a month, see how it goes." He nodded gratefully. "Thank you, Margaret. That's more than I deserve." Over the next few years, we slowly rebuilt some version of a relationship. It was never the close father-daughter bond I'd wished for as a child, but it was something cordial, occasionally warm, marked by mutual respect, if not deep understanding. He never became the father who attended every event or called just to check in. But he did become someone who acknowledged his mistakes, who tried in his limited way to make amends, who eventually told me he was proud of the person I'd become. I used part of my inheritance to open a community center in Grandma Helen's name. It offers services for elderly immigrants, language classes, social programs, assistance navigating healthcare and legal systems. Every week I volunteer there, and I see echoes of my grandmother in the faces of the women who come through our doors. The scholarship fund has helped 32 students complete their business degrees. Several have gone on to start their own companies. One young woman, Kim, reminds me so much of Grandma Helen. Fierce, determined, brilliant with numbers and people alike. My brothers eventually reached out to me as well. The family rift had been painful for them too, caught between their father's expectations and their own sense of what was right. We're not extremely close, but we have a cordial relationship. We meet for holidays sometimes, share updates about our lives, support each other in small ways. Now at 58, I look back on that painful confrontation 15 years ago, and I see it differently. Yes, my father's cruelty wounded me deeply, but it also led to one of the most meaningful conversations I ever had with Grandma Helen. It gave her the opportunity to teach me a final profound lesson about what family really means. She showed me that we choose our family through our actions every single day, that showing up matters, that love is demonstrated through consistency, through presence, through caring enough to listen to someone's stories, even when you've heard them dozens of times before. I never married or had children of my own, but I don't feel I missed out on family. I have created family all around me, through the community center, through the students I mentor, through the elderly people I visit who remind me of my grandmother, through friendships built on mutual care and respect. Last week, a woman named Rosa came to the community center. She's 85 recently, widowed, struggling with loneliness and navigating Medicare paperwork that might as well be written in code. I sat with her for 2 hours, helping her understand her options, making phone calls on her behalf, and then just talking with her about her life. She told me about growing UP in Mexico, about her husband of 60 years, about her children who live far away and call once a month if she's lucky. When she left, she hugged me tightly. "You remind me of my daughter," she said. "The daughter I wished I'd had anyway." I understood exactly what she meant. That evening I went home to my small house filled with photos and memories. I have pictures of Grandma Helen everywhere, at her textile shop in her 40s, at family gatherings, receiving an award from the Chamber of Commerce, sitting in her chair by the window at the assisted living facility. In one photo, she's 90 years old, wearing the jade green cardigan, her hands folded in her lap, looking at the camera with those bright, intelligent eyes. On the back, in her elegant handwriting, she'd written a message that Mr. Morrison gave me after she passed. It says, "To Margaret, my true granddaughter. You showed me that the greatest inheritance we can give is not money but values. You inherited my heart. I am so proud of you. Remember always that family is built through love, not blood. Keep showing up for people. Keep being kind. That is the fortune that truly matters." I keep this photo on my nightstand. On difficult days, when I wonder if I'm doing enough or being enough, I look at it and remember what she taught me. Show up, be kind, love without expectation of reward. That conversation with my father in his office 15 years ago was meant to destroy me. Instead, it became the catalyst for understanding the most important truth of my life. That real family is created through devotion, presence, and unconditional love. My father wanted to cut me out of an inheritance, but Grandma Helen made sure I received the greatest inheritance of all, the knowledge that I was loved for exactly who I was, for my character and my choices, for showing up week after week with tea and cookies and an open heart. That is worth more than any amount of money could ever be. Thank you for listening to my story. If it touched your heart, I'd be so grateful if you would like this video, share it with others who might need to hear this message, subscribe to keep these stories of kindness and resilience alive, and leave a comment below about your own experiences with family and what it truly means to you. Your stories matter too, and sharing them helps all of us feel less alone in this complicated, beautiful journey of life.